Well, hi, and welcome to number 55 of 100 messages and days. I catch up here and there, and then I lose a day, but I'm sure that's okay. Number 55 of 100 keys for breakthrough. And trust you're all doing well out there, all in different stages of this pandemic and lockdowns and such like. And in the middle, as you probably remember, of this 100 days, literally actually in the middle, around the 50s, I'm having a look at really my tagline: he wastes nothing, he gets you ready. And we've had a look at Moses, we've had a look at Paul, and we've had a look at Peter. And I just want to share a couple of things from my life's journey for your encouragement. And remember, the key isn't that you believe my story. The real key is that you believe your story. That's the key. And when you believe your story, you release authority. And that's been very much a part of our journey. But I just want to give you three quick ones for me. When I was called to the ministry, I wouldn't call it that today. Because of the things I believe, I would say career ministry, perhaps career church, something like that. But when I was called, when I was 17 years of age, I wrote immediately after I heard God speak to me to Sue's grandfather. He was my grandfather-to-be-in-law, and he was a great missionary. And I wrote and said, hey, could I have some advice? And he gave me perhaps the best advice, very short but very good advice. He said, go and get some experience working with people. And he set me on a journey. And it would be many years later, in fact in the Christmas of 2015, that I would hold in my hands, together with Sue, as we made our final decisions of moving back to Europe. I would hold in our hands a book, Tortured for Christ, written by Richard Wurmbrand, the foreword written by Sue's grandfather. And we held it in our hands, and he was a man who served in Europe, and we looked at each other and said, Europe's our inheritance, we're going home. And it's just that piece. He wastes nothing, he gets you ready. My journey in Awakening Europe, extraordinary to me. I had nothing to do with the nations that were chosen, but the first one in 2015, 70 years after the end of the Second World War, was in Nuremberg, where my dad had walked those streets, clearing out bomb-making equipment. I knew what to preach. I knew that I was going back to drop another bomb, a bomb of the Father's love in Germany. The second Awakening Europe was Stockholm, and Stockholm for me, it meant something. It meant Stockholm Syndrome. I'm a hostage negotiator trainer, and I knew what to preach. It was a setup that we need to make sure that we don't become too closely aligned with the perpetrator. That's what Stockholm Syndrome is, and there is a spiritual Stockholm Syndrome, I believe. And thirdly, the third Awakening Europe would be in Prague. And what an incredible privilege that was to be there. And again, there was something very special, for it was where Sue's mother was born, in Prague, while her father and mother were starting mission bases and planting churches there. He wastes nothing. He gets you ready. And as for me with nursing, I stopped being a nurse on October the 31st, 1982. And on February the 2nd, 2008, I made a statement. Surgery is not a second-class healing. And it took me back into the world of healthcare, and I got to speak to healthcare professionals, and I still do, at medical healing conferences. He wastes nothing. Can you imagine that? Was that something like 26 years later, I am talking to healthcare professionals with the credibility of being a qualified nurse. And I studied strategic planning. I studied it in the prison service. I studied it at Cambridge. And then I find myself ministering around the world and teaching church leaders apostolic and kingdom strategic planning. He wastes nothing. And I could go through detail and detail and detail of my life. And the key is change the way you think and start looking and realizing there is nothing that he will waste. You might at the moment feel like you're in a place that is dead end. Change the way you think and you will see keys and lessons that you can learn. There will be things that God will use again in the future. I want to just confirm and assure you today that your breakthrough is the other side of believing this. And it is Romans 8:28, my paraphrase translation. Be a shorter Bible if I paraphrase the lot, wouldn't it? He wastes nothing. He gets you ready and your breakthrough. It's the other side of believing that. There isn't a moment of your life, there isn't a failure of your life, there isn't a downtime in your life that he will not redeem. And there is not a victory, there is not a success, there is not an experience, not one thing that he won't use for his glory. He wastes nothing and he gets you ready. Bye for now. I'll see you soon.